Oh, this is where you've got to be really awkwardly close to each other because...
I always think that when you see, the programmes on TV.
Yeah.
When they're
just sat like that, yeah.
And you're
it's
literally
weird.
on top of each other. That must be awkward.
Hi, and welcome back to another Sofa Science on a sofa.
Yes.
This is quite exciting, actually.
How many of your Sofa Sciences have actually been on sofas?
This is the third, I think. Okay. So under half, I think, have been on sofas.
But Shed Sciences aren't in sheds
anymore. They haven't been in shed for years. I don't think people understand why it's called Shed Science because it's not been in a shed for so long. This time it's with Maddie.
Hi.
Hi, Maddie. Who are you?
I am Maddie Moate. I have a YouTube channel called Maddie Moate. Very original.
Inventive.
And I make lots of different types of content, actually. The thing that's most consistent on the channel is beekeeping videos. I love bees and make videos about those bees. I also make videos where I go out into the world and go in search of various animals, so wildlife vlogs. And then I also like to make sort of pop science videos as well. Next thing was for them to come around the side of the house and try and work out exactly where it was the bees were settling. The air was quite busy round here, and eventually that is where they settled. And you can see from the footage here that there is an enormous amount of bees.
Cool.
A whole range of stuff.
Yeah. And as all first questions go, or second questions I should say, how did you get started?
So, it's a really long story.
Everyone says that. These are really long videos.
Okay, right. So, I come from a media background. So I studied theatre, film and television at Bristol. Mm-hmm. And when I was there in my third year, I did a course on online media and I discovered this world of YouTube and was just, I didn't know it existed. I knew that there was online video, but I didn't know there was a community behind it. And I didn't know that people were making videos that were interesting and factual. So
What year was this?
So this would have been...
Not to date you or anything.
No, it would have been 2009.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So kind of just as... So YouTube had been going for about 2 years.
Yeah, so it was still fairly early. And then I graduated, thought I wanted to be an actress, realised I didn't and wasn't actually very good at it.
Had you done lots of acting before?
Yeah, so most of my childhood was spent doing musical theatre,
okay.
If I'm being honest.
That's why you're so good at singing! So last Christmas we did a singing collab video and Maddie was in it.
Yeah.
And I had to listen to so many tracks and in the comments people have said...
I thought mine was terrible.
It's a good job these people can do science because they can't all sing. But yours was really good.
But the key that was in, it was like, I didn't know whether to be a pill.
That was my key. That was very much my low voice key. Perfect for a low female, terrible for everybody else.
It was fun anyway.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, you were saying musical theatre.
So I did a whole bunch of musical theatre, thought I wanted to be an actress, realised I didn't. I just didn't find it very satisfying, and to be honest, I just wasn't that good at pretending to be other people. But I still really enjoy performance. And if I hadn't have gone down that, I think if I didn't want to be an actor, I probably would have become a teacher.
Okay.
So those were sort of the two things that I was playing with. And
in
then,
a particular subject?
Drama or English, sort of like my two sort of subjects that I was, like my main subjects at school. But I'd always been interested in science. I had done it right up until A-levels and then I dropped it and decided not to go on to do it at university. Mm-hmm. Just because when you're making choices, when you're, 16, 18 years old, you just go with what you know and what you think will be fun for 3 years, because that's all you know at the time. So hence why I ended up doing drama. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, I wish I had stuck with science, but hindsight is, not a very useful thing. Mm-hmm. So just completely by chance, someone asked if I would do a bit of presenting for them. And this was a science piece. It was factual. It was about the environment and recycling. And I loved it.
While you were at university?
This is after I graduated. Okay. So I graduated, dabbled in acting, wasn't for me, went travelling, just found myself, came back and was offered this random presenting job.
You loved, you prayed.
I did all the three. And I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I want to do because it combined the performance, but it also combined teaching in a way as well.
How did that person find you?
That person was family.
Oh, okay.
they knew that I'd done stuff in front of the camera in the past and just said, hey, would you do this for my company? And I said, okay. And that was it. So that's kind of what got me into presenting. And then I was like, no, I want to be a factual presenter. That's what I want to do. I wanted to rediscover my love of science and move into the world of science and tech. And then because I had already known that I love YouTube, I'd done a lot of it at university, I sort of went in search of people who wanted online presenters. And I ended up working with multiple technology brands online. So that's kind of how I entered that world of YouTube. So working for Samsung, for O2, for Sony, always presenting and sort of like on behalf of them, usually talking about the new models of mobile phones or whatever. And that was really good for, a while.
Were they looking for generic presenters or someone particularly with a science interest?
I think the first couple I did, they were looking for generic presenters, but then the more experienced I got and the more I could sort of call myself a technology expert, which I then sort of did become actually by default, just because I was doing it for nearly 5 years, then I became requested because I was a presenter, but I also knew what I was talking about.
And were you actively seeking out these technology brands because they were technology?
Yes, yeah, actively. But there's only so long you can hold a mobile phone for and get excited about the amount of megapixels its camera's got. And I then discovered that I told you this is a long story, but I then found out that the BBC were going to be branching into YouTube and that they were going to...
Who's the BBC? I've not heard of that company.
The BBC. This is that television production company.
Do they make any good stuff?
I mean, they're all right.
Do they have much of a natural history?
No, I mean, they just have this guy called David Attenborough who...
Who's that?
I mean, he's an old guy. He's,
okay, cool.
He kind of knows what he's talking about. But BBC Earth, they were going to be branching onto YouTube and creating a brand new original content. They were going to be making bespoke YouTube content. And I was like... Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing opportunity because science, particularly natural science and animals, I'd grown up with, I'd love them forever. It's just never something that, it wasn't a career path that I had taken. But suddenly there was this opportunity. So I approached them, did a bunch of sort of like pilots and auditions and ended up hosting what is now the Earth Unplugged channel.
Was that an advertised position?
No.
So you just kind of heard on the grapevine that they were going to be doing it. Yeah,
and they had tried a few presenters, but they'd been trying TV presenters. But actually, YouTube is different. It's a slightly different tone, and it's a bit awkward sometimes if you were acting like a TV presenter. Sort of like a face-to-face YouTube film, it's just a little bit, I don't believe you. It's just not very authentic. So I came at it having only really done online presenting, and it worked. So that was kind of worked in my favour.
We will come back to that, but first, to make it make more sense, what did you do after that?
All right, so was working as with the technology brands for Earth Unplugged, and then I realised this is all very well and good, but there's this community here, and I think to be a legitimate YouTuber, you have to be making your own content. So I then created my own channel, played around, did a bit of vlogging, made some sort of comedy challenge videos, and have finally settled where I am now, making my own content. But still do bits of presenting on the side, including I present a children's show on CBeebies called Do You Know?
Which is the BBC's young children channel, for those that don't know.
Yeah.
So my question is, how does presenting for TV differ from presenting for YouTube? Because, I mean, it's going to be different because children's presenting is its own thing in its entirety. But how much do you feel that there is a difference in the style? Do you consciously think, okay, this is a YouTube audience? Because, I mean, nowadays, the cameras are probably pretty similar. Yeah. The technology is pretty similar.
Yeah, it's. I think if you were to ask me this question when I first started, nearly 5 years ago, I would say it's really different. But actually the lines between TV and online are so blurred now because TV don't really have the budget anymore. So they will be shooting on exactly the same sort of DSLR that any, YouTuber who has, paid out a bit and has got a bit of budget and has bought kit. It's the same thing. The kit's the same. For me, it's more about the process. It's not like I don't think, right, switch into YouTube mode or switch into TV mode. It's just the fact that for my YouTube content, I'm more involved in the production and the editing side. So I feel like I put more of myself into it. And I think that then shows in the video. Whilst with TV, this wasn't the case with Do You Know, which was really nice because they actually wanted to be a bit more modern with it. But it's more likely that you're going to be given a script, you turn up, there's a production crew who've already done all the work for you, and then you go away and they edit it and you don't have any say. So I feel like with TV you're one step removed, but with YouTube it is you giving yourself to your audience in a way. And I feel like again, I'll come back to the word authentic, but it's more honest and it's more authentic and it feels a bit more real.
Hashtag relatable.
But I think as well on YouTube, I'm a lot more casual. Whilst on TV, you know, I do hold myself in a certain way. I am actively presenting. Whilst on YouTube, I'm trying my best not to do that.
Yeah.
I have to force myself not to be a presenter on YouTube.
Hard.
It is, because I'm so used to being like, hey, you know, especially for kids TV, which is even more so.
Yeah.
So I have to rein myself in sometimes, because I'm like, whoa, you're in presenter mode. Back off. That's not cool.
How do you do that? Because that's one of the things I have found the hardest out of all of YouTube is sounding like myself. It sounds really weird, but sounding natural and not being like, hi, I'm Sally LePage and I'm going to tell you about evolutionary biology.
Yeah. I think if I can hear myself doing it, and I will almost sort of just go, right, okay, just say it as casually as you possibly can, and I will go completely in the opposite direction.
Because then it becomes low energy.
Yeah, and then just because of how I naturally am anyway, like even if I try and be really low energy, it still comes across on camera fairly, you know, it doesn't necessarily come across that way on camera. But sometimes I do have to rein myself in a bit. But it's funny because so many people now watch my YouTube videos and they go, oh, you should be a presenter. And I'm like,
yeah.
Lol.
Funny that. I've not thought that at all.
Yeah.
You're talking about how there's a difference between YouTube and TV because YouTube, you're doing everything and you're writing and you're editing. What about YouTube where you're part of a group like the Earth Unplugged team, for example?
Yeah, so it is different. So it's nice because I have the experience of sort of the whole spectrum, I guess. When I was working with technology brands, it really was a case of turn up at whatever event the brand, you know, had whatever launch it was, and it would just be a case of just spilling off the facts of the phone and they would try and turn it around as quickly as possible. With Earth Unplugged, it's a bit different because it's the BBC. They have a certain standard to maintain and that things have to be checked over, things have to go through a series of people before they can be ticked off. So I can't get as involved in the production side as I would like to. But having said that, because I've nearly been with the channel 3 years now, I have a huge input in the sort of content we make and in the style, which is really nice. Is the style of the Earth Unplugged videos has really grown up. At first, it was just me in front of a bright lime green screen. Yeah. And it was very much like kids programming because no one really knew what YouTube was. And I think the BBC kind of just went, it's like kids programming, right? And actually that's not the case.
It's quite odd because the BBC, I think, is so innovative in terms of the TV programs they make, the radio they do, even iPlayer, so kind of on-demand TV that was invented by BBC. But when it comes to YouTube, they are so slow. Yeah,
but finally, I think what's nice is that Earth Unplugged has got to a position with the sort of content I make with them anyway, where I do vlog. I actually hold the camera and I will vlog, and it's much more about going somewhere and experiencing something and bringing the audience with you. So they've moved towards a style that's more like the style I create on my own channel, which is great because it means I'm not in a studio anymore. I'm not in front of a green screen. It's less Vsauce and more Maddie, which is really nice.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. So do you prefer to kind of show the audience rather than like sit down and say, I am going to tell you today about bees?
Yeah. Well, I'm not a scientist. I don't come from a science background. I'm just curious about the world. I love learning and I like asking questions. So the purpose of my channel is very much to bring an audience along and learn with me. So that's just more natural for me to be out and about, to be talking with experts and asking them. I do enjoy studio stuff. I enjoy sort of like writing scripts and doing it that way. But I just feel more comfortable and I feel more me when I'm doing it that way around.
Because you don't have a science background, do you feel that has put you at a disadvantage in any way? Or do you feel like maybe you're coming at it from a fresh approach because you're not kind of indoctrinated in the scientific way of...
It used to really bother me. I used to find I also feel a little bit hard done by, sort of like, I know I mentioned it earlier, but if only I had done a zoology degree, then I'd be in a different place now. But I don't let it bother me so much anymore. I think for TV it would help. I think if I could say, if I was an expert, a female expert, I think it would help. but I'm not. And that does make it difficult, because every time there's a job coming up for something that would be perfect for me, there's likely to be a female biologist or a female zoologist, and why wouldn't you go with the expert? Like, I completely understand it. But I think what's nice is that, especially with the TV stuff and the YouTube stuff all coming together, I think that message of what I'm doing is quite clear now, which is more just encouraging curiosity, especially with younger minds. And I think I stand enough for that message that it's okay that I am a presenter who goes out and learns things and can ask the stupid questions that someone else might not want to ask.
Yes.
So I'm cool with it now.
You are bringing up being a female YouTuber and female presenter.
Okay, yeah.
Seeing as you brought that up.
Yeah.
So how has that affected you? Do you find that, for example, companies are actively seeking female presenters now?
I don't know if it's like on TV or on YouTube or on both. I think TV are searching for a variety of presenters. So I don't think the fact that I'm a white female presenter is a problem, but I think if you've got a group of presenters, you want to make sure that you've got a variety of presenters, colours, genders within that. I haven't found it so much of an issue. I haven't found, oh, you're a woman, great, we must have you. I personally haven't experienced that so much, but I have experienced the not very nice consequences of being a female on YouTube, especially working in science and even more so in tech.
Okay, because you started out in YouTube in tech, so it was kind of birth by fire then, I'm guessing. Yeah. What was that like?
I think because originally when I was working for technology brands, I was a little bit removed from the content, because I really was just coming in as a presenter, so it didn't hurt so much. It hurts more when I or you have made the video.
What hurts?
If you get criticism, or if you get sort of like sexist comments, you kind of I don't know, it just hurts a little bit deeper. But I did feel like the technology companies, and especially the tech audiences, was very much like, oh look, another blonde bimbo talking about tech, or sort of like, shoes fit, or don't show us the phone, show us your insert whatever you want to put in, that whatever. Ooh, that sounded wrong. That sounded worse than I meant it to. So that wasn't very nice, but I became used to it very quickly, which is sad, because that shouldn't happen, but I became used to it very quickly.
Did you kind of think, oh, I'm just going to ignore them, or I'm just going to rise above it, or was it a kind of, I'm just they are there, but it's still a comment, and a comment is always a good thing?
I think for me, the comments that were about my appearance, I just don't care about. I'm like, whatever, like, get over it. It's just, you say what you want to say. What hurts would be the blonde bimbo or comments, or the assumption that I am just a talking head, or that I'm stupid. I hate that. That really hurts. If someone calls me stupid or assumes that I'm just there, kind of like being like a puppet, that really bothers me. The weird one is when people just think I'm faking my accent. They're like, you're not even British. I'm like, what?
Because default everyone is American, and therefore British accent, someone's putting it on.
Yeah, I just found that so weird. And I mean, it wasn't the driving force, but that's what's nice now about having my own content and making my own videos, because I can be like, well, actually, no, I do know what I'm doing.
Because I have done every single part of this video.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert, but I'm not stupid.
I imagine that must have been particularly difficult because you didn't have a technology or science background, and you were on a technology channel.
No, but I guess the technology thing is that because I did end up, again, it was sort of, I had been doing it for 5 years by the time I stopped. So actually at the end I was like, okay, no, I think the audience had seen me enough and became familiar enough with me to know that I did know what I was talking about. And I still enjoy doing bits of tech now, for, you know, corporate videos or brands. It's been really lovely that I've been able to expand and move just beyond tech to start doing science and tech, and pretty much just do whatever I'm interested in at the time, which is really nice.
And you mentioned that you don't really care about comments on your appearance. One of the videos that I do love from you was that The Real Me, or whatever it's called.
Yes.
That was, oh my God, so open. I remember watching that. This was before I met you, because we only actually met like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, today's probably like the first proper time.
Yeah. Seeing it's like, obviously, like we tweet each other all the time and like messaging and stuff, but yeah, I remember seeing that and thinking like, oh, I just wish I could give you a hug. Like, it's so honest. For those that don't know, it was a video about what did it turn out to be in the end?
Well, it was, so I was diagnosed with something called perioral dermatitis, which is basically eczema around your mouth, a type of eczema around around my mouth. And I've been suffering with it for about 2 years, and it had just, sometimes it was there, sometimes it wasn't, and it was constantly getting me down. And for the majority of the time, I was able to cover it. But obviously filming both as a hobby on YouTube and then trying to make a career out of that, but then also doing it as a career as a presenter, having something on your face is a really difficult thing to hide. And I couldn't help but be very aware of it. And it just got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't put on a brave face, and I just had to have a big cry. And I think for me it was, I knew that I would find it comforting if I had found someone on the internet talk about it, if I knew that I wasn't alone, and also just be told that this is what I've done which helps, this isn't going to help, and it's okay. And I actually thought that it would help me to put that message out there, just knowing it might help somebody else, if that makes sense. And I was a little bit hesitant because honestly, because in that video I do show how it was looking really bad and infected when I filmed it. I was like, is this going to put people off? Will people not want to hire me because of this? And now if you Google my name, it does come up as that picture. Yeah. And I thought, are the BBC going to want to hire a girl because, I don't look hot or pretty in that picture. It isn't very attractive. But actually, I've only had a positive response from it. People have only said it's really brave, it's nice for someone to be that honest, and it's only helped people out. So I've never had anything negative, which is really good. That's so
good. Because it is hard, because as much as, like you say, we're not doing this because we look a certain way.
No.
But there is certainly the feeling, I find as a woman at least, that your appearance is being judged as part of you. As in, if I am to do a good job as a presenter, part of that is looking good in a way that it's not a part of a man's job to look good and so much.
I do feel like that, sadly. And I think it does matter. And I think it does affect views, which is really sad. But I do think it plays into consideration. And when I say that the comments about my appearance weren't bothering me, they weren't bothering me in that I would get upset about it or I would dwell on them. But because there were so many comments about my appearance, it made me very wary that my appearance was important or was playing on the minds of my audience.
Yes.
So that when I then had something on my face that was becoming harder and harder to hide, I knew that my audience were going to notice. And I was just dreading the time someone commented being like, what's that gross thing around your mouth? Or, oh my God, that's disgusting. So maybe a part of it was self-protection, was being like, look, you can call me out on this, but I'm going to tell you about it first.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. There might have been an element of it there.
I mean, it's so much of what you're saying just reminds me of making my coming out video, actually.
Really?
It's kind of, I want to anticipate it before any kind of gossip starts, and worrying about, well, if potential people see this, will it affect whether or not they want to hire me? It's
true, actually, because when I was thinking about doing it, my boyfriend Greg, he was like, well, just tell people what it is. It's not an issue. It was a bigger issue for me because it was on my face. It felt, obviously it feels more dramatic. And he was the one that was encouraging me. He was like, it's okay. He was like, just do it. And then if they then say something, then the problem is theirs. It's not yours.
But at the end of the day, you're the one that needs to get enough money to pay rent.
Exactly. But yeah, it hasn't affected jobs. At least, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
For all I know, someone might have Googled my name and been like, oh no. But that hasn't happened.
That's good. You mentioned Greg.
Yes.
So you are dating Greg, who is also a YouTuber and science presenter and everything.
Yeah.
And this isn't in any way hidden from the internet, but it's also not something that you make videos about. It's not like, oh, let's do a boyfriend-girlfriend tag or something. Have you decided together this is how much of our relationship we will put out online?
No, I think... So on social media, so on Twitter, on Instagram, I think it's fairly obvious. Facebook, not so much, because we tend just to share what's on YouTube on Facebook. I think we're both wary that our brands as TV presenters and whatever we're doing on YouTube are to be science communicators or edutubers. And it just doesn't necessarily make sense to bring boyfriends and girlfriends into that. I mean, to be honest, we'd probably love to do a boyfriend-girlfriend tag and do sort of like the boyfriend does my makeup. It'd be really funny. But then that sort of sits a little bit uncomfortably with a whole host of videos about searching for wildlife. So it just, that type of content doesn't necessarily match the style of the videos on either of our channels. And also, I have a channel, but Greg doesn't really have his own channel. He presents BritLab. So the BBC have 2 channels. They have...
I should really put a BBC counter on this video.
I know.
There's going to be a lot of talk of the BBC.
Yeah, which is... sorry. But he hosts a channel called BritLab and I host Earth Unplugged. And so we couldn't put those type of videos up on either of those channels because we don't own them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more of just... the type of video, the type of content we're making doesn't necessarily match up to that sort of like coupley vlogs. But that's not to say he hasn't appeared in my videos or I haven't appeared or featured on any of his social media platforms. It just hasn't really worked. The style doesn't really match. But
you didn't have to talk about, okay, both of us are kind of in the public eye. Do we want to make our relationship public?
Yeah. We did it... it was a little bit difficult at first, simply because we were both working for the said production companies. Which one's that again, Maddie? the alphabet, those ones. And we weren't sure if it would necessarily be that professional for them to know that their 2 main hosts were dating. So we didn't know whether they should know at first, but it's just not an issue. It just hasn't been a problem.
That's good. And with the rest of your life, have you decided, okay, this is what I'm going to keep private, this is what I'm going to make public? Do you have have you made a decision, okay, I'm going to categorise it this way?
Well, when I first started my YouTube channel, I did... I sort of trialing things out, and I did a couple of months where I vlogged every day.
I remember that.
Yeah, back in the day. So I'm not opposed to bringing my personal life onto my YouTube channel. I think I have to be more wary of that now. I'm presenting kids content on CBeebies, in that I just think it's nicer to sort of keep that a little bit separate, just because I think it's more that I've slowly but surely wanted my channel to have a really clear point. I wanted it to be very easily understandable, the sort of videos I'm making. So I've tried, in making that clearer, I've stopped doing the fun, vloggy, public, personal stuff.
Do you miss it?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I would really love to do the fluffy bunny. What's the one when you put
fluffy
marshmallow?
bunny, yeah.
I'd love to do the fluffy bunny challenge.
I mean, we can do a fluffy bunny challenge if we want.
Yeah, I'd love to do boyfriend does my makeup.
Have you thought about having a second channel then?
I have, but it's such a mission, just managing one, that I just don't have the capacity to do a second channel. I've joked about doing those kind of video styles on my Snapchat or on Instagram stories, just because that's where I share more of that side of my life. But I think in trying to make my channel more niche and give it a clearer direction, I've just stopped doing that other stuff.
Now you've moved more towards kids, do you feel like you are more of a role model and you do have to monitor your behaviour more?
Yes, not in my personal life, but online, I have to think, although the CBeebies audience is really sort of 3 to 6, so they're not online much yet, they are still watching YouTube videos. And it is possible that they actually might ask their parents to search for me, because it will become known that I have a YouTube channel. So I do need to consider that my content is not necessarily kids content, but it has to be kid safe and it has to be kid friendly.
And what do you mean by kid friendly?
I wouldn't want to swear in it. I wouldn't want to be boozing in it. Or
this is Coca-Cola and water.
Coca-Cola, no, it's not even hot drinks. We're carrying mugs, by the way.
Yeah.
For your audio listeners.
Oh yeah, I forget that now there's now a podcast version of this. We all segued.
You're welcome.
This is now available as an actual audio podcast. Links below if you want to just listen to it.
Sorry, so yes, kid safe. And also, because my content is usually factual, I'm more considerate about the language that I'm using. So I would want to make sure that I don't alienate anybody. So I wouldn't want to do something that's so complicated that a family who might be watching it together would just go, oh gosh, no, this is a bit beyond us. So I do think that I want it to be understandable to a younger audience.
Who are your audience?
It's really hard to tell. Analytics are a pain in the bum because they don't necessarily give you an honest view of who's watching. My audience is really spread out. I'm quite lucky. I have a fairly even split male and female, which...
What sort of split are we talking here?
55. I know.
I think that beats even Simon's.
What's
Simon's, I think, is 60-40 male, female.
He's a boy, though.
So that was his argument as well.
Yeah.
I that is astounding.
What's yours?
95?
What did you do?
No, it's gone down. It's gone...
What noise did I just make?
What did you do? I think it's gone down to 90 now.
Really?
It was at 80... It was 80, 85. And then Rooster Teeth and Tom Scott happened. And it rocketed up to 95% male.
Bought the masses, even more masses over.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm really lucky that I have a fairly even split. I think it's a few percentage, but it roughly hits slightly more men. But again, it's sort of like fairly well divided between 14 up to 55. So with the majority, I think, being in the 25 age bracket. But when I did the video we were talking about, which was the one about my skin condition, that brought a whole load of people out of the woodwork. And I suddenly had a chance to speak and see this invisible audience who never comment. Because I think we can all say that you get people who comment all the time and you get to know them. But then you don't know who these thousands of other people are who never comment. Mm-hmm. And turns out most of them were families. So even though my analytics tell me that it's 25 plus watching, actually a lot of those are made up of parents who are watching it with their kids.
That was something really interesting that I hadn't thought about until I was chatting with Tom McFadden, Science with Tom, because he is a teacher and doing teaching type stuff. Yeah. He is saying, like, I have these adults in my analytics, but of course I don't know how many of them are parents with kids, and it's the kids that are watching.
Yeah. So I think most of my audience are my age, so I think they're mostly 20s and beyond. I think my age group are a little bit older at the moment because of the type of videos I'm making, which is about wildlife trusts in the UK, and that is typically something that is enjoyed by older people in the UK.
And
just
me!
Just being realistic.
Like that kind of thing, but yeah.
And families, I would say. I don't have many young teens watching my stuff, which doesn't really surprise me.
Would you want them to?
Yeah. I'd love them to. I'd love them to come on board and learn some whatever I'm learning about at the time. But it's okay. I'm not targeting them.
So I know that you're kind of focusing more towards younger audiences. Before the kind of transition to kids stuff, were you targeting a particular audience?
No. I was just making videos that I thought would be fun. I probably should and look more at my analytics and go, okay, well, what's going to work well here? But if I'm being completely honest, I've always just sort of made what's felt right at the time. So that's kind of just how I've decided what I'm going to make. And I know that I want to make more of a considerate effort to make kids content, but I don't want it to be too far removed from what I'm already making. I just want to make sure that it's perhaps packaged in a more of a kid-friendly way, so a kid would go, oh, this is for me, as opposed to this isn't for me. And that can be done with simply music and titles. So I don't want suddenly my videos to become like not enjoyed by my current audience. I just want a kid to recognise it as something that is also for them. Yeah.
And you're in the position where you've been presenting on multiple YouTube channels with different audiences. How much do you find the audiences differ between the places that you're presenting?
Hugely. My audience are lovely. So audience on the Maddie Moate channel, they're really lovely. And I think that's because they've grown up with my channel and I'm constantly in conversation with them. So they know that I'm present, they know that I'm there. And also it's a small subscriber, but like I think it's maybe 12,000. So there's not many people. So you can't really hide in the comments. However, over on Earth Unplugged and on whatever technology brands, especially if they would put some money behind the video so it would go out to masses, it's assumed that I'm not there, that I am not present and I don't read the comments, and they're very different.
In what way?
they just aren't as nice. I mean, generally everyone's really lovely, even on Earth Unplugged. I rarely get nasty comments on my own channel, but they do happen on Earth Unplugged. There was one occasion where it got really, really bad, and in fact so bad that it actually hit YouTube's what to watch page, because there was so much engagement in the comments, and then because it hit that homepage, what to watch or what it.
Yeah. It's now trending, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It then sort of encouraged more of an audience, because I was making a video about glaciers or glaciers.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, and it will even kick off people in these comments, I promise you. But some people say glacier, some people say glacier. I think we made a decision to say glacier, but then I was talking, this is really dull, but I was talking about glacial ice.
Yeah.
And people kicked off. They were like, that's not how you say that word. And it started with just, she says that word funny, to this is a stupid video, which then became leave, die, what are you doing? You're not even British, fake accent, stupid expletive here.
Yeah.
And it got nasty. And I just thought, oh my goodness, it's just an accent.
Yeah.
And the boys don't get that. The boys on the channel don't get it, but I did.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. Do you find then that, having experienced that, you make a deliberate effort to reply to the comments on your own channel?
Yes, I do. Yeah. If it's really petty, sometimes I'll just leave it. But on my own channel, if someone says something, and sometimes it's criticism, and that's sometimes a good thing, because often I'll get criticism, especially if it's about production, sound, or whatever. I do feel like I can respond to it, be like, oh yeah, sorry about that, I'll fix it next time.
Yeah.
Or I can be like, that was a bit unnecessary. And most of the time people will reply being like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to offend, just thought I'd let you know. And I think because I can address it immediately, it sort of calms the situation and it makes it a conversation again. So rather than people feeling they can be anonymous and just say whatever they like, if I call them out immediately and be like, hey, I'm actually noticing you, why don't we make this a conversation? It invites that person to become part of your audience, and hopefully they'll keep coming back.
Do you often block people?
I've never blocked anyone.
Okay. Is that a conscious, I will never block anyone?
I've never had to. I've had a situation where another channel have blocked someone for me and they came back worse with another name.
Okay.
So it just didn't work. But I've never had anything that was worth blocking on my channel, thankfully.
Yet. Touch wood.
I'm not feeding the trolls here, people. Yeah.
CBeebies.
Yeah.
That is a big thing.
Yeah.
How did you go about getting that job?
I was approached. It was a really lovely situation in that they were looking for someone. They knew they wanted the show to be set in the real world. A lot of CBeebies programming is set in a studio and is hosted by actors who are playing characters. This was going to be different. They wanted it to be on location, out in the real world, and they wanted the presenting style to reflect that. So they had decided that maybe it would be nice to get someone who made their own stuff, or someone who was from a vlogging background, because it kind of brings a little bit more of yourself to it. So they, I think, were searching for people who were making videos about technology and were interested or passionate about science, and they discovered me and saw that I was doing some more adult versions of the sort of stuff they wanted to be doing on the show.
Yeah.
And they called me in and asked if I was interested in doing it. So I was really lucky.
That's pretty exciting.
I was really lucky, yeah. So they found me because of what I was doing on YouTube, which is really great.
And in the future of Maddie, do you think that YouTube is a stepping stone to something else, or do you think that you'll go just be full-time YouTuber? Have you got a long-term plan?
Oh, I find this so difficult because I've sort of opened up two avenues now, in that there's this YouTube career path, but then there's also the new CBeebies career path as well. But what I really hope is that I can marry the two. So it would be great if Do You Know can continue to go on and become something bigger. We can do more TV shows and I can get a live show around it. But also that YouTube Maddie can start making content that just marries nicely with the TV stuff I'm doing. So I hope just both continue to sort of do well, and it and I don't
your
have
life
to pick.
to go well.
So I don't want to have to choose between either. It's not like, I'm doing TV now, I'm not going to do YouTube. It doesn't work like that. I'm just as proud of the stuff I do online as I do on TV. I just think it would be nice to find some way to connect everything together a bit.
And so you don't have a preference for one over the other then?
No, it's nice having the mix. It's nice having this. YouTube is, I think, more satisfying. And I like the fact that I can make a video, I can put it out, I have control over it, and I get immediate response. With TV, it's 3 months making it and then waiting 8 months for it to go out, by which time you've moved on to something else. So TV is typically much slower. And when you're used to working at YouTube pace, that can be extremely frustrating. So it's nice to have the TV stuff, but be able to fill it in with all the YouTube bits in between the waiting.
Do you prefer having control working on your own or working with a team?
I like having more control, but I prefer working with a team. I find YouTubing and I find being a YouTuber at the stage I'm at the moment, which is that it's just me managing the channel. I don't have the budgets to employ people to come on board, but it can be quite lonely. Which is why it's nice to make videos where I'm talking with experts, or even videos like this collaboration.
There's a reason I made a sofa science series.
But it's true. It does get a bit lonely because it's a long time setting up cameras by yourself, researching by yourself, hours editing by yourself. You upload the video and then you're having a conversation with people who aren't actually with you. But when I'm doing TV, it's great. I love working in a team. I enjoy getting the most out of other people. And I think I'm better when I'm surrounded by ideas. I'm more creative when I'm surrounded by other people. So that respect, I prefer television. The dream is that I'll be able to grow the YouTube channel to a point where I can have a team around me and it's not just me. I'd love to work with a team on my channel. I'd love that to be that's the dream, really.
What would be the first job that you employ? What's the thing that you'd like least?
It would almost just be an assistant, someone who could help me do a bit of everything, someone who can maybe do some initial research on a topic that I'm thinking about so that I can then pull that out and turn it into a script, but they've done the research bits. Someone who could come along to shoots with me and make sure that my sound is decent, because my sound is always dodgy. And that person could also then help me upload some of the footage, maybe help me with some rough cuts, and then I can then finesse it. Just someone else, a friend would be really nice.
Just company.
Yeah, that would be a good start. And then eventually something people a bit more full time. But I'm not one of those people who are like, I must do everything. I'd like to have a say and I like to have input in everything, but I think people I work better in teams personally.
Yeah, it's good to know about yourself.
Yeah, I think so.
What video are you proudest of?
It's probably always the video that I've just made, because it's the one that I've just spent so much time on.
I am exactly the same, yet everyone else has been giving different answers.
Although I did a video called What is a Scientist? And that was a collaboration video with a research institute in the UK. And I was just happy with that, because I was given the task of covering and reporting an event, which was a bunch of kids going into this research institute, and the purpose was for them to try out different jobs as a scientist. And it could have been really dull and dreary, but actually I hope I managed to turn it into something a bit bigger, which was more of just a bigger conversation about careers in science and just thinking a little bit further about it, and not just assuming that science isn't for you based on your preconceptions. And I really like the video. I think it's interesting. I think it's shot well. The edit's quite playful, and I think it gets the message across. So I like that one.
Is it the style that you like more than the content?
It's the style. I like the fact it's on location. I enjoyed editing that one, and it has a strong, clear message and a strong title, which isn't always true of some of my other videos. I think there's something about it which is a little bit more clicky, a bit more sticky than some of the other videos I make, which are about very sort of like rare species in the UK that not very many people know about, which aren't necessarily going to be that shareable. That one I think is. which is good.
Do you ever try and go for the more clicky titles then, or is that something you actively avoid?
I tried it once recently, actually, because I made a video about going out looking for bumblebees, and then it just so happened, like, in the garden, sort of like near where I live, there were these massive bumblebees, and I just wanted to film them because they were huge, and I was just so excited. That was a video with Greg, actually. That was more of a, I'm just going to film this for the fun of it, and it was really great. Mm-hmm. And in it, I think I was like, that bumblebee's the size of a hamster. And I was like, maybe I should use that as the title. So I did. Whether it's worked or not, I don't know. Because now I look at the title and I cringe a little bit. Because I'm like, at the moment, it's sticking out a little bit too much. And I think it now looks a little bit naff next to all of the other ones. But it is something I'd want to play with. Okay. Slightly catchier titles. That are never false, but are a bit more, make you think a little bit more. Yeah. Make you want to click on them.
But you wouldn't go with the, you'll never guess what this bumblebee did next.
She said yes. He said no, never. That kind of thing. No, I wouldn't. It just doesn't, I don't think it suits the type of content that I make. If I'm making a video about bumblebees and to be like, wild bumblebee attack, it's just not, it's just not right.
And there's just one bumblebee just flying across the screen and flies into your shoulder or something.
Bumblebee attacks camera. Although the bumblebees were attacking your camera.
Attacking the camera earlier.
That should be your title. Yeah. Bumblebee attacks camera.
Attacks YouTuber as well. I was covered in them.
Bee attacks YouTuber.
I had two of them try to sting me. I should totally call it Bumblebee attacks YouTuber.
Yeah, there you go.
Or Honeybee, I
Which
should
is a shame, but that probably would do better than...
Yeah, probably would. YouTube attacked by some bees. Oh, well. You do a lot of collabs with, like, Norfolk Wildlife Trust most recently, but also speaking to scientists and that kind of thing. Do you tend to approach them to initiate that?
Yeah, always. Yes, I've always approached them, and most of the time it's me approaching companies or organisations, so science or wildlife organisations, saying, hey, you don't have any YouTube content. Can I help? Is pretty much sort of like the way I go about it. And more often than not, I find with these smaller organisations that they're interested in making YouTube content, they just haven't had the means to do it, or they just haven't really known how their stuff would present itself on YouTube. So that's where I can come along and be like, hey, well, I can sort of make this work for a YouTube audience if you'd be interested. And then that's how I've sort of managed those connections, really.
And do they provide you funding to make those videos?
Yeah, so the way it worked with Norfolk Wildlife Trust was that they paid me an amount per video I made. I agreed that I would make them 9, and the videos sit on my channel, but I also give them the raw files of the videos to go in their visitor centres. So they go on my YouTube channel, which is really great, but they also get to use them as part of their educational work that they do with schools. So it's nice.
And how have you found working for institutions that aren't particularly YouTube savvy?
It's been okay, actually. It's been all right. I think it's really hard knowing how much to charge or how much to ask for when you're making a video, because you have to go, you know what, actually, this is going to take up 3 days of my time, and it's going to take up, it's going to take up a big chunk of my time, and it's going to be a lot of work, but you're only really going to produce a 5-minute video at the end of it. So that can be quite difficult to explain to a company who just aren't used to that. Mm-hmm. So it's only a 5-minute video. Surely that will take only take, half an hour?
Yeah.
No, it takes so much more work.
It takes half an hour just to upload it to YouTube and do all the metadata.
Exactly. And the rest, making thumbnails takes a stupid amount of time. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the only thing, is sort of conveying that sort of message that I know it's a 5-minute video, but an awful lot of work goes into this. And the reality is, it is going to take 3 to 4 days of my time to make a single video. That's the only thing I've had to sort of like communicate.
Is that roughly the time period that it takes for your normal videos on your channel that aren't associated with institutions as well?
I think so. I reckon usually it will take a day of my time, even if it's only a few hours within that day, thinking I've got to travel to wherever that place is, got to do a bit of research beforehand. So a day filming, and then it will usually, I spread it out, so it's difficult to know exactly how long it takes, but I reckon it's about a day to get all that footage in, to break however stupid amount of hours I've spent filming down to something like half an hour, and then I'll get that half an hour down to like 12 minutes, and then I'll start fine-tuning to get it down to sort of like 7 or below. So I do think it takes 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
which is a long time.
That's not that long compared to some people.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it depends on, because if those 3 or 4 days are spaced out, then it depends how you count it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wish people knew about you that you don't feel like they know, that hasn't come across?
You told me you were going to ask me this question. I did tell you,
and you have listened to all the other ones, and so you know that all of them end with this question.
I think it's quite fun that people know I come from a musical theatre background.
Yeah.
I think that's and I think it's nice as well that people know I'm not a scientist and I'm not an expert.
But that there is still a route to get into science communication without being it.
Yeah. And I'm also glad as well that there's now a new audience who know that I am actually a presenter.
Yeah.
And they can stop saying, you should be a presenter. So it is nice to know that I'd like my YouTube audience to know that I do have this other life of stuff that I do on TV, so that's really good. But I'm trying to think of something a little bit quirky or different, and I can't think of anything. No.
You're just an open book.
not hiding anything, no. Anything else? No. That's pretty much it. I'm a musical theatre geek at heart. With a love for Disney and an obsession with Disney theme parks.
The only time I went to Disneyland was for the premiere. I had not been before that and have not been since.
That was the premiere of
Tomorrowland.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, just as you do, walking down the red carpet behind George Clooney. And what is your favourite social media site? What are your links?
Instagram.
I love Instagram. That's a new one. Why Instagram?
I spend so much time on it.
You do have a really good Instagram feed. I swear whenever I look, there's you in some really glorious sunny location with a different hat. And
I think it's just, on Twitter I feel a bit pressure to be funny or to say something witty. And I just find that my Twitter feed usually ends up just being like me pushing or promoting my next video. And I just find it's a little bit tiring even for me to read, and I'm not on Twitter enough to kind of like make it more about daily updates or thoughts or comments on whatever's going on in the news. Facebook I like, but actually I'm getting more interested in Facebook.
Okay.
Sort of trying to post more on there. I'm actually thinking of starting to upload my YouTube videos uniquely to Facebook as well, because I think some of my videos
uniquely or natively,
as in natively, just put them straight to natively put them just straight to Facebook.
Would they also be on YouTube?
Yeah, so do a slightly different cut. Just because I think some of the videos, especially these ones for doing the wildlife trusts, I actually think the bigger audience for those are probably on Facebook and not on YouTube. Mm-hmm. But I just really like Instagram. I love photography. I like looking through other people's pictures. For me, it's a different way of showing what I do, and it's a different part of myself. So I really like it.
Do you like the stories part as much as the normal photos part?
I do now. I dabbled with Snapchat.
Yeah.
But then Instagram stories came along, and I don't use it often, but I find I go through stints, or if I'm doing something interesting. I would have Instagram story today actually, but it's a bit difficult when you're handling bees. Yeah. But I do find I use Instagram stories over Snapchat now, and it is nice. It's nice to see the voices behind the pictures. Because that's the thing with YouTube, you know the people. Yeah. But with Instagram, sometimes you've just been looking at beautiful travel photos and you've never actually seen the person. So it's quite nice to get that different insight into it. Yeah.
Cool. And what are all your handles, links?
At Maddie Moate. It's always at Maddie Moate on Twitter, at Maddie Moate on Instagram, Maddie Moate Presenter on Facebook, and Maddie Moate on YouTube. Yes. And Maddie Moate 1 on Snapchat. I might start using it again, you never know.
Yeah, I don't know. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have filmed, or in the process of filming, a video on my channel about the evolution of bees. A video on Maddie's channel, which is going to be about
honey tasting.
Honey tasting.
I'm going to do the honey taste test with Sally.
Blind honey tasting. And Maddie also thought that it would be an interesting idea to interview me for Sofa Science, so that will be coming up
Role
as well.
Reversal.
Yeah, it's just all Maddie, basically, on both channels, so if you don't already follow her, do. I think that wraps it up.
Only that I'm so glad this has finally happened.
I know,
we're like representing the ladies in the UK, so like not just the two of us, but I'm so glad. Yay. Thank you for having me, everyone.
That's all right, in your lovely house.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.